This is Peter, and putting together this video as a video journal. Um, so this will be my first installment that will go on YouTube. I'm not selling any systems. I'm not offering any signals. But in the interest of just protecting myself, I guess, I'm going to put a disclosure in these videos. Please understand that trading futures and options involves the risk of loss. You should only be using risk capital to trade with. Any results that are posted in these videos are not necessarily indicative of future results. And the information in here is for educational purposes, mainly for my own review. And I'm not soliciting any financial products or not an offer of solicitation, I should say, or any investment advice. So please understand that if you use any of this information, it's at your own risk, and you accept all responsibilities for anything that happens as a result of using this information. That being said, so these were my trades today. I'm going to go through each individual trade on the actual chart. These lines here are lines that I draw throughout the day. I use trend lines, range lines, so forth, just to help me visualize as the price action is playing out. Most of the time I can see it without the lines. It just makes it easier when I draw the lines on there. So my first trade was just about 15 minutes after the market opened, and I got about 16 ticks out of 4 contracts, and I'm going to go through the trade in each individual trade after I review this slide with everyone. Second trade, full profit hit. I use again 4 contracts, an ATM strategy where I take off 2 at 4, 1 at 6, and final contract comes off at 8. Next trade up here, 4 contracts short, 2 off at 4, 1 at 6. Final contract after I had moved to protect 2 ticks did not hit the full 8 ticks, so another 16 ticks there. This one was a unique trade only because I had identified this upper range line at that point. So I really just sold the high, pretty much, actually 1 tick below the high. So took 2 off at 4, 1 at 6, and the final one was 12 ticks. The reason for that is this range line was right along this bottom here, so that's where it cashed out. I had my target set for right down here at the bottom of these. And then the 5th trade, 4 contracts long, 2 off at 4, the rest got hit at break even after I moved my stop. Generally what I do is when I hit my first target of 4 ticks, I move my stop to break even. Then when I hit my 6 tick stop target, I move my stop to protect 2 ticks. And then if it hits the 3rd target at 8 ticks, I'm out of the trade. 6th and final trade of the day was here. Again, 4 contracts long, full profit, 2 off at 4 ticks, 1 off at 6, final contract at 8. So I ended up with a total profit of 90 ticks on 6 trades, beginning at 9:30, so to speak, and just finishing up at right around 12:45. So I'm going to go into the individual details of each trade, what I was seeing and why I took it. First I wanted to just as part of my pre-market prep, I do draw lines and channels for the overnight moves, just to kind of get my mind into preparation mode, so to speak. I wake up in the morning and have my coffee, and I got to get my mind prepared to see the market. So I go through this exercise every day where I draw these lines to help me see the price action, so that when I start trading live, I'm not doing it cold. Usually I mark arrows where the entries would have been for the overnight session. This morning I was having trouble with my Ninja. I normally trade on Ninja 7, but for some reason my data feeds were not showing for some reason on my charts on Ninja 7. So instead of trying to reboot and everything, I thought I'd give Ninja 8 a try. Seemed to be working fine, so I went ahead with it, and that's where I traded out of all day. So coming into the first trade of the day, I had this channel drawn coming into the US session. So this range, let me get the arrow here. So I had this line drawn. I copy paste it, ran it up around here. It seemed to be where it needed to be for me. Then as price started to go sideways here, I drew this up top here, copy and pasted it down here. It seemed to hold. Got confirmation kind of right about here as well. But the other thing that I saw as this started to move up was another trend channel kind of developing. So I used the ray to kind of extend it out just to see how it would hold throughout the day. So then the market opens, goes to the upper range, breaks through, comes back. Actually, it doesn't break through, comes back, bounces off the EMA. This is where I took my first entry. So I was figuring I could at least get my scalp out of here. Market had overshot the top of the range once already. Made a second attempt to break through, did not, and then was trying to push through here. So kind of had this trend line holding, especially when this bar pretty much went down to the tick. It was rejected, so I put an order. I actually waited till it broke through the upper range. I put an order one tick above the high, took it. 4 contracts long, 2 off at 4, 1 off at 6. Final contract had 2 because I moved my stop to protect 2 ticks when it started coming back this way. Then it comes back, bounces off of the trend line again, EMA, real bullish bar here. So I put an order right above it, 1 tick, entered, 4 contracts long, full profit. Really could have let this one run all the way up. Haven't worked myself up to letting those runners run for more than 8 ticks, so I got to build up to that. One of the things that kind of hurts not using some of the Apex systems that I learned on is I don't have those MVP arrows to kind of trail with. I do miss them. Then we go here. I didn't have this range line drawn yet as this was playing out, but price moved up kind of at an extreme, kind of far away from the EMA, from the trend line. This was a real bearish bar, so I put an order 1 tick below, took it down, 4 contracts short, 2 off at 4, 1 at 6, final contract, protecting 2 ticks. Didn't quite go the 8 ticks I was looking for to get full profit on it, but that's okay. Then price kind of meandered about. Um, that's when I recognized that we were developing somewhat of a little bit of a channel. I had this line originally up here, and then so as I'm watching it, after this price action had already printed, I started watching it go up. So I figured we're going to retest this range line, so I put an order one tick below to sell it. Had my stop up here, so I wasn't really risking much. Put an order here, and then I got into trade. It touched it twice, never broke through. Took it short. So I had on this one, since I already had this line down here, I did my normal 4 contracts, 2 off at 4, 1 at 6, but I let the final one run to the bottom of the range, and it did overshoot. Like I said, I was targeting this because I had some closes along this line, so there was a lot of touches here. So I figured this was a good as any target. And then as price action developed, I moved it down a little farther, just because it seemed to fit better there. And then so that's that trade. And then once this trade played out, I took what I guess you would call a second entry long at the bottom of the range. So using this high, there's your first entry. It breaks the high of the previous bar. So this is the first bar that breaks the high of the previous bar. And then you get a pullback, and then a second entry breaks the high of the previous bar. Entered 4 contracts long. It didn't have this trend line yet. I was a little leery going into the EMA, but again, I figured we were just going to bounce between ranges, so I took a shot, and I had a pretty decent stop, tick below here, 1 tick above, took it. So I got 4 contracts long, 2 off at 4, the other 2 just kind of were taken out at break even. At that point, I kind of identified we had a little trend line going here, so I drew this line. I saw that we were in sideways price movement, so I drew a range, small range channel here, and I just kind of waited. Then I saw we had 1, 2, 3 attempts to push below this line. So when I got this bullish bar, I decided to take it long and put an order 1 tick above the high, 4 contracts long, and I just did my normal ATM strategy: 2 off at 4, 1 at 6, final contract at 8, and that brought me into my lunch hour, and I was done for the day. That's pretty much it. Those are my trades. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, put them below. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up, and I hope you enjoyed. Thanks.